there's a lot of conversations about AI replacing all of our jobs, but the question is AI actually replacing people's jobs at the moment? And so I in the corporate world, I really haven't been seeing it yet. And so I wanted to find something to see what the research suggests. And so that's what we're going to look at today.
Between January and September 2025, there have been more than 946,000 job cuts announced, with roughly 300,000 from the government sector.
That's the highest since 2020, and it's a 55% increase from what we saw last year through the same time period.
It would make sense to think AI is to blame for the layoffs.
Now that we've had generative AI come in and kind of change the equation, investors and boards are asking management teams, how are you using AI? Why aren't you using AI? Can't AI help you streamline costs?
But the latest round of layoff announcements in the fall of 2025 suggest AI might not be the root cause of the restructurings.
They also seem to be real signs that something...
And that kind of makes sense, right? If you go back to this, I think part of it is that there's other things in the economy going on. So, for example, there's a very real consumer slowdown in certain industries. We're definitely seeing it in the retail space. So that absolutely is happening. And then there's restructurings going on. Are Target's layoffs? I'm a shareholder of Target, so I know this one well. Are Target's layoffs a result of AI? Absolutely not. And then there are companies where their layoffs are actually in the AI department themselves. I believe that was the case with Meta. And so, Starbucks, different story as well. And so I don't know how much of the layoffs are actually AI driven, whereas it might get reported in the media as potentially an AI-driven layoff, but I don't think it actually is. I would say that there might be some industries that are going away as a result of AI. Probably like customer experience might be one, and another one might be like coding. But still, right now, it's a few and far between. I would say automation, which has happened over the last 30 years, that has reduced employment for sure. But then people have just become more productive in different roles, and so this might just end up being one of those things where we all just become more productive as opposed to losing jobs. But again, I'm talking a lot. I want to see what these guys say.
The restructurings.
They also seem to be real signs that something new is happening, that we've turned a corner in the economy.
So we've seen a wide range of reasons. You're not really seeing companies say, I am cutting 10,000 employees and replacing them with one single computer.
Using AI and introducing it to save jobs turns out to be an enormously complicated and time-consuming exercise. I think there's still a perception that it's simple and easy and cheap to do, and it's really not.
No, it's absolutely not. Again, I think a lot of the AI vendors are having difficulty right now. At least what I've seen is monetizing AI via applications. But again, this is just my little small world. You guys might see things differently. And as a result of that, I think what's happening right now is there's a lot of kicking the tires on AI, but not necessarily changing whole workflows. And then which causes redundancy across the board. I'm just not seeing it. Again, you guys let me know in the comments if you guys are seeing it.
There's no doubt AI is a powerful force in the economy right now. The extent to which we think it's affecting the economy and hiring is in graduate level, low-skilled jobs. We haven't been able to find yet much evidence that AI is capable at this moment of taking over sort of white-collar, middle management jobs.
Now, I would say that he's probably right. I will also say that AI is making us more efficient, like in terms of reviewing documents, writing emails, summarizing notes, etc. Like I am finding I'm becoming way more efficient. I can do way more, but there has never been a thought in my mind to reduce headcount as a finance executive as a result of AI yet. Now, that being said, I have found myself in a situation where through automation over the last, over my career, bringing in automation tools, which is not AI, has allowed us to do more with fewer people.
So why are we seeing so many layoffs? And how much of it is because of AI? Wall Street has been hyping generative AI innovation for several years now, which is putting pressure on executives to make it a part of their business model. 79% of CEOs in the US said they feared they could lose their jobs within 2 years if they didn't deliver measurable AI-driven business gains.
Investors need to be a little careful with what some people have called AI washing. And what that is this idea that because business is deteriorating or there's some difficulty going on with the business, you say, oh, we're letting people go because of AI. No, you're letting people go because the business is hurting and calling it AI, and because Wall Street is buying anything with the letters A and I attached to it. And
Steve Leisman doesn't hold back, but he's absolutely right. That's probably some of what's happening.
so what you might find is you would actually get a bump in your stock because you're letting people go because of AI.
There's this kind of financial fiduciary incentive for management teams to say they're using AI and say that strategies are related to AI, even if it's not totally related to AI. There's been surveys that have come out that found companies are attributing certain strategies and plans to AI, but it could be as simple as, using AI to write an email for you.
What do we call that? We call that corporate theater, right? So 35% of projects are just for show. Again, I haven't seen a lot of the corporate theater. It's more people are kicking the tires, figuring out how to use AI in a way that makes us do more, better, faster.
Right? Is that really a revolutionary use of this technology? No, but can you say you're using it as part of your strategy? Technically, yes.
Now, I will say that there's two areas, at least in the finance space, where I saw AI work really well. The one is you're in a Teams meeting, and then I can just type in the Teams comment box and just say, hey, what were the last 5 years of revenue for this particular segment? And Teams is connected to my planning module, which is connected to my accounting module. And then it will just go in and pull that information, graph it out, and show it to us right on the meeting. So that's really good use of AI and very helpful, because you're on the meeting, you just have a question, and you just say, blah, 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 give me the answer, and boom, you got the answer, as opposed to having to email somebody on my team to get them the answer. And then the other area where I've seen AI work very well is in planning softwares, where I can just query and just say, hey, listen, for every for every customer in this particular segment, increase the revenue in the planning year by 1.5%, except for this, and this, which you increase by this rate. And it'll go in the revenue by customer module and do all of that. And so it saves me quite a bit of time in doing that. And so those are two areas where AI works really well, with the combination of an LLM combined with our planning and accounting modules. So I think that's where you can get some efficiencies, but over time, will that let me rephrase. Will that immediately cause us to reduce headcount? No, it just makes us more efficient, and we're working less overtime as part of the budget process, and less overtime, I would say, or just having to do less with fewer queries coming into the accounting and finance org as a result of meetings happening across the organization. So that's what I see right now. But again, early stages, right? This could very much snowball into us just becoming more efficient and productive.
A lot of time looking carefully at companies that are actually trying to implement AI, and there's very little evidence that it cuts jobs anywhere near like the level that we're talking about. And in fact, most cases, it doesn't cut headcount at all. It may come effectively later on by improving productivity, so you get some of the effects of it. But it turns out it's really, really hard to cut headcount with AI.
That's exactly what I'm seeing. And that's exactly what I said. Maybe later on, as we continue to improve productivity, it may cause us to hire less. But remember, as time is going on, people are leaving, people are moving on. So it might just be one of those where, somebody leaves and we just decide not to rehire the role, and we restructure the group or the team But again, I don't think it's going to cause us to mass layoff. At least the world that I work in, which is finance, it's not going to cause us to mass layoff anytime soon.
Meta's decision to cut 600 workers in October 2025, they cut those workers from their AI unit, and that's because the AI unit had gotten
Totally called that. But you guys knew that as well.
bloated. They'd hired too many people. And especially at these tech firms where the idea of integrating new technology, innovating and disrupting, you cannot have 10 people you have to go to make a decision if you want to be a disruptor and an innovator.
Companies are announcing big layoffs all the time. In a given year, there could be 1 million announced layoffs. The question is whether or not there's other hiring going on. And the problem we have is that there's no official hiring data.
We've seen
Now, that is another valid point that he made, where companies may be laying off in one area and then hiring in another area. The other thing is that if you guys remember, there was massive tech layoffs in 2022. Tech unemployment was still around 1 or 2%. So it was way lower than the US average, because these people were just finding jobs in other areas and staying employed.
wide variety of reasons for the layoffs that we've seen in recent months. Sometimes it's related to a larger restructuring at the company, an effort to reduce costs. Sometimes it's related to changes in the business. This is kind of a trend in corporate decision making where big corporations become really fat over time, right? You have all these layers of middle management, and it takes a long time for people to get things done, right? Corporate employees spend a lot of their times in meetings. They spend a lot of time talking about work, but not a lot of time actually doing work. As we enter into leaner economic times, you're seeing companies kind of rethink their corporate structures. Do I need 5 layers of management for one project to get done? If I cut out 3 to 4 of those, how quickly can we actually have this project out in front of customers? And when you're in a high interest rate environment, the job market has become weaker. Consumer spending has become weaker. You don't really have the luxury to have 5 layers of management to go through every time you make a decision.
I think in general,
Now, I would say, as somebody who owns the annual budget, that hurts my heart. My presumption is that the management teams are doing this every year and making sure that we don't have inefficiencies in the organization. But of course, that's unrealistic. You know that there are inefficiencies across the organization, and there could very well be inefficiencies in my department as well. But as a budget guy, it does hurt my heart knowing that corporate bloat happens and then it gets addressed later on.
they just don't seem to worry about the consequences of overcutting, nor do they worry about the consequences of what happens if they're guessing wrong about recession. So there's been some interesting research over the last couple of years showing the costs of doing that. And basically the short conclusion is the longer you can resist a layoff, the better your financial performance is likely to be. And part of that is because you don't save as much money by cutting as you think, but also on the rebound, it takes you a while to bring new people in, get them settled, not disrupt the place.
Yeah, especially if the rebound is quick. Then you've laid off all these people, you've paid all this severance, and you got to hire people back again. You didn't save any dollars, and in fact, you lost it on, lost capabilities and competencies that went out the door, and now you have to retrain people in so much as knowing how the organization operates and how to work with the people in the organization,
And then turn things around.
There's a great story out there that maybe people want to tell about the coming revolution of AI wiping out all the jobs. Let's just be skeptical of that till we have a little harder evidence.
That's right. I agree with that. I'm not seeing it. It sounds like the experts over at CNBC are not seeing it yet. But again, we're going to keep our eyes open and see how this plays out. And so you guys let me know in the comments what you think. Is AI wiping us out like predicted in Cyberpunk, or is it not? Okay, see you guys.